All right, good morning. The time is 9:03 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. My name is Wendy Hartman with the Office of Planning and Environmental Review, and I will be serving as today's hearing officer. Stephanie Townsend will be serving as the ZA Secretary and Timekeeper. This is the Sacramento County Zoning Administrator hearing for June 16th, 2021, and this hearing is being recorded. I am now going to read an official announcement. In compliance with directives of the county, state, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, this meeting is live streamed and closed to the public. Temporary procedures are subject to change pursuant to guidelines related to social distancing and minimizing person-to-person contact. In order to make a verbal comment at today's meeting, please dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in the queue for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter. When I open the public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda item matter, you'll be transferred from the queue into the meeting to make your verbal comment. Written comments are always accepted, and you can send your email comment to boardclerk@saccounty.net, and your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. To appeal a decision made here, you may do so within 10 days to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the appeal fee is $3,935. I'll briefly go over some meeting, never mind. I'm going to ask the hearing secretary to administer the oath.
Okay. So for the applicants, please raise your right hand and the appropriate response is I do. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth? So help you God. If you do not swear, do you so affirm? Did you hear that, applicants? Stephen Shoddy?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay, Steve?
I affirm, yes.
Thank you.
Stephanie, can you please call the first item?
Item one is to approve the action summary from the June 2nd, 2021 meeting.
I've reviewed the minutes and approve as recommended.
Okay.
You could open the first public hearing item.
Okay. Item 2, Sac Metro Preschool Use Permit Amendment, located at 6201 Winding Way in the Carmichael community. Request is for a conditional use permit amendment, special development permit, and design review. Environmental doc is exempt.
Hi, good morning, Zoning Administrator Hartman. This is Desiree Fox presenting on item number 2, Sac Metro Church of Christ Use Permit Amendment. Next slide. The project site is located at 6201 Winding Way in the Carmichael/Old Foothill Farm community in the RD5 zoning district. The project request is for a conditional use permit amendment, a special development permit, and a design review to determine compliance with the countywide design guidelines. Next slide. The site is currently developed with a 2-story church in the RD5 zone. There are 2 independent parcels to the west of the site that provide parking for the church. They are owned by the same operator as the church. They just provide the parking for the site. There are single-family residences to the east of the site, and an existing wooden fence separates the site from the, existing wooden fence separates the residential parcels from the church site. The previous use permit and variance was approved in 1982, and it legalized church that was built in 1901. The variance was to reduce the required 25-foot of landscaping across the frontage, and it allowed for a 6-foot planter instead. The use permit itself does not address an associated preschool with the church, but as you'll see on the next slide, there's an area outlined for classrooms on the site plan that was previously approved. Next slide. Here is the previous approved site plan. If you're looking at the eastern corner, you can see the to the south an area outlined for classrooms and a large green space that currently exists along Winding Way. And as mentioned, there wasn't anything called out specifically in the use permit document that allowed for an ancillary private preschool, but the current definition of a religious institution in the zoning code does allow for a private school to be within a church. So that still would be compliant with current. Next slide. The conditional use permit amendment is a request to allow for the inclusion of a private preschool that will serve approximately 40 students. This preschool will have 2 different age groups, 0 to 2 and 2 to 5, and they will be within the existing classroom area, which is 1,725 square feet. The preschool will use an additional playground that's going to occur in that grass area along Winding Way, in addition to the existing playground area. And the operator for this preschool is currently Nature's Lab, according to the application. Next slide. Here is the proposed site plan for the current project request. If you look at the bottom of the site to the east, you see that there's a lot more landscaping proposed along that future playground area. And the playground area will include a play structure and will be fenced in with a wrought iron fence. There is going to be a wooden fence that is required to be along that property line to separate the site from the residential parcels. And the existing playground area will still maintain. The site also includes a special development permit to deviate from required landscape, parking lot landscape requirements. If you look on the site plan, you see that there are some stalls that do not have the required shade requirements in the project request from that until the church is ready to install those landscaping requirements. Next slide. The special development permit allows or is a request to allow for deviations from parking lot landscape requirements as mentioned. And the latter part of the application request is for a design review. And in that design review, the DRAC and the DRA reviewed the existing proposed landscaping for the playground areas, and they also reviewed it. Next slide. There are some materials and plant palette requested for the development. The installation of the required landscaping will be required within 1 year of the approval of the entitlement. So that's June of 2022. And we came up with that date so that just because the installation of the landscaping would be better to occur in the summer. And that's what the applicant and the county agreed. As mentioned, that grass area is going to be, that's in the front of the site, will be fenced in with a wrought iron fence provided along that. Next. Here is the infant classroom and the layout that's provided by the applicant. Next slide. And here is the preschool classroom. The application or the attachment to the findings and condition document includes a condition that says a substantial compliance app shall be required if the number of students are more than 10. And that has been agreed upon with the applicant. So if they increase their number of students, then they'll need to come in for a substantial compliance application. And if during that substantial compliance application, it's determined that another amendment is required for the use permit, then that decision will be made up. Next slide. The DRAC reviewed the item May 28th and found it to be in compliance with the countywide design guidelines. The Carmichael CPAC reviewed the item as well and found the development to be suitable for the site and also recommended to the DA that the project be approved. No members of the public were available to make comment on this item at the CPAC. Next slide. Staff's recommendation today to the zoning administrator is to recognize the exempt status of the request under CEQA, approve the conditional use permit amendment, approve the special development permit, and find the project in substantial compliance with the countywide design guidelines, all subject to the findings and conditions that's listed in attachment 2 of the staff report. And that concludes staff presentation. The applicant, Steve Wakeman, is on the line, and the operator for Nature's Lab, I believe, should be on the line as well. Thank you.
Desiree, thank you for your presentation. I don't have any questions for staff at this time, so would like to turn it over to the applicant for any information they would like to present, and I may have a question for them.
Hi, I'm Steve Wakeman. I'm a member of the church and helping represent the church in this permit use application. We had a school there for like 40 years. They left, and the application lapsed over a year. So this is a reason why we need to come here. And we're expanding to accommodate. Nature's Lab is an amazing program for an essential service of for the kindergarten, the preschool effort. It's it's oriented toward the teaching in nature, in the laboratory of nature. And so the only addition to this project, as Desiree mentioned, is the existing school that we had there, is the addition of the fence on the Winding Way side, and the landscaping to accommodate and a buffer and to enhance that area. So we're excited to have Nature's Lab as part of the community. We've got multiple programs, and this is the neighbors, there's 2 neighbors on the east that are happy that they're there. It's actually a pretty quiet operation, even though it's a lot of fun to be learning outdoors at the preschool. Sylvia does amazing as a great operator, great neighbor, great tenant. And so we appreciate your guys' attention and consideration and approval for this improvement and use.
Thank you for that little additional background on the previous school site. I do have a question for you. So I noticed that primary access, there's 2 primary access points off of Winding Way, but it also looks like there's an access point off of Woodhaven. And so I'm just curious, is that just an emergency access point, or is that gate opened during church and school operational hours?
It's a tertiary access point. I don't believe it's emergency, because we've had fire engines there part when we have a harvest festival, but it is a gate there. It's pretty much always closed there. We're trying to not to mix directly with the residential there. That road along Winding Way is a frontage road, but so it is typically not open, but it can be for emergency accessible. Yes.
Perfect. All right. That was my only concern, was additional trip traffic through the neighborhood, but you addressed that. Thank you very much. I have no other questions. Stephanie, are there any communications from the public?
This is Stephanie. We currently do not have any public comments or anybody waiting on the line.
All right, with that, I will close the public hearing and we'll take action on the project. Go back to that. Sorry, I'm hopping between documents. All right. So I will recognize the exempt status of the request under Section 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act. I approve the conditional use permit as proposed and with the conditions of approval in the staff report. Approving the special development permit as proposed and conditioned in the special development in the conditions of approval, and find that the project is substantially compliant with the countywide design guidelines subject to the findings and conditions. All right, there is, as previously mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, a 10-day appeal period for this item. Stephanie, if you can introduce the next item.
Thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Item 3, Onnit Coffee Kiosk, located at 2201 Marconi Avenue in the Arden Arcade community. Request is for a use permit, special development permit, and design review. Environmental doc is exempt.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good morning. This is Meredith Holsworth. I'm the project manager for Onnit Coffee. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
All right, thanks. Next slide, please. The project site is located at 2201 Marconi Avenue. It's on the northeast corner of the Marconi and Howe intersection in the Arden Arcade community. The subject parcel is in the limited commercial zone, and it is currently undeveloped. The site is surrounded to the east and south by LC zoning, the north by RD5, and to the west by City of Sacramento city limits. Next slide, please. The request is for a use permit to allow a drive-through restaurant without amplified noise within 75 feet of the residential zone to the north, a special development permit to allow deviations to landscaping and spacing requirements between the right-of-way and drive-through entrance, as well as a design review to comply with countywide design guidelines. Next slide, please. This is the site plan. It's showing the proposed building envelope on the site, the 2 drive-through lanes, a pedestrian walk-up window, and the trash enclosure location. Next slide, please. This is the landscaping plan. This is depicting the new trees and landscaping that are proposed to be included in the development. Next slide. These are the proposed building elevations, where the applicant intends to showcase local artwork on a majority of the facade, and the side elevation on the bottom shows the pedestrian order window. Next slide. The project site is currently undeveloped, as you saw in the aerial. The drive-through window will not utilize amplified sound. The site development includes 2 drive-through lanes and a pedestrian walk-up window. One of the drive-through lanes would take access from Howe, with traffic moving eastward to the order window on the north and exiting out onto Marconi. The other drive-through lane will take access from Marconi, with traffic moving westward to the order window on the south of the building and then exiting onto Howe. Next slide, please. The deviations that are being requested as part of the special development permit are to deviate from the distance required between the drive-through exit and entrance in the public street. And the other deviation is the landscaping planter that's between the drive-through lane and the public street. Next slide, please. The DRAC reviewed the project on February 25th, 2021, and found the project to be in substantial compliance with countywide design guidelines, and the Arden Arcade CPAC voted to recommend approval by a 4-2 vote. The dissenting members at the CPAC indicated that they felt the layout did not fit on the lot and expressed some concerns that traffic would back up onto the neighboring streets. Staff is recommending approval with conditions of approval listed in attachment 2 to the staff report. Next slide, please. The recommended actions before you are to recognize the exempt status of the request under CEQA, to approve the use permit to allow a drive-through kiosk within 75 feet of a residential zone, to approve the special development permit to allow deviations to the landscape and drive-through entrance setback requirements, and to find the project in substantial compliance with the countywide design guidelines. That concludes my staff presentation. I'm available for questions, and we have the applicants on the line as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. I did have a couple questions about the art. So it sounds like they'll be doing regular contests. I know the staff report mentioned once a year, and I think their exhibit mentioned every 2 years. I don't know that it really matters how often it occurs, but I did want to find out if they did this once and then never changed the artwork after that, just for whatever reason didn't hold another contest. Is that going to be an issue for this project would be my first question. And then my second question related to that is, if they do want to change the artwork, are they going to have to come back through the county for an incidental or minor design review to review the new artwork and changes to the facade?
Thanks for your questions, Wendy. I did just want to mention that the elevations exhibit does state that the contest would be held every 2 years, while the color and materials board actually says once every year. So I'll let the applicant clarify that, and then we may need to just strike or edit that on the hard copy exhibits if you are going to approve the project. But I did also just want to mention this project actually did go to DRAC twice, and the first time the artwork was not part of the proposal, and it was discussed at the first DRAC meeting because the DRAC was not favorable of the proposed color palette. So when it returned to DRAC for the second time, and that was the proposal, the DRAC was really happy with that, and we're not intending to have the artwork be reviewed by county staff or by the DRAC committee in the future. So we had not added that as a condition of approval, but we did take DRAC's recommendation, and that they were okay to have the contest be held and not have additional county review of that artwork.
Thank you for that clarification. I'll go ahead and allow the applicant to provide any additional information and to respond to the frequency of how often the art will be changing. Thank you.
This is Shadi Katab, the CEO of Onic Coffee. Ideally, we would like to hold the contest every 2 years. I don't have any issues with any delays in terms of holding the contest, but it's something really to get the community involved and to support our local artists. Onic Coffee is a local company founded in Sacramento. We started our first mobile gourmet coffee truck a year ago, and I actually did my project on Onic Coffee at Sacramento State University about 4 years ago. So the company really means a lot to me in terms of giving back to my local community and making an impact and a difference. And in terms of the contest, ideally, I'd like to do 2 years just to allow the community, to really enjoy the artwork and the different, symbolism for Sacramento for at least 2 years, and then hold another big contest and get, local artists involved. That answers that question.
Thank you. Is there any other information you would need to know about your project?
Yeah, so again, just to kind of give you a quick summary on it, we started the first mobile gourmet coffee truck about a year ago during the pandemic, and I actually had been reached out to by the CFO of Sac State. He heard about our project and the Onic Coffee truck through Good Day Sacramento, and we were looking to have the truck go on campus to serve students. Unfortunately, COVID happened, and so, the campus shut down. I've been working on this idea for nearly 4 years when I was a student at Sac State in the business program, and our motto is impacting lives one cup at a time. Every 3 months or so, we partner up with local nonprofits in Sacramento to give back, and that's something I'm planning on doing with the drive-through, where percentage of every single cup sold will go to a local nonprofit. So for last year, we worked with My Sister's House for human trafficking, with the Sacramento Food Bank, where we donated $1 from every drink. And actually last month, we completed our campaign with NAMI for mental health awareness. That is really what I want on it as a drive-through to be focused on: community work, giving back, and just kind of showing the youth what On It is all about. Our coffee is sourced locally from Old Soul. They're based in downtown Sacramento. And Sacramento State University really supports this project, and CPAC, the community, they really want to see it happen. I've been waiting nearly 3-4 years to bring this to life, and I'm very excited to serve my local community and make a difference and bring this project to light, God willing. So that's kind of a little background on It Coffee, and I appreciate all of you for being here today, and hopefully the project can get approved.
All right, thank you very much. Stephanie, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. I do know that we received an email, but I also wanted to find out if there's any members of the public wanting to speak on this.
Yes, we do have somebody on the line that wishes to speak. And I can send that whenever you're ready.
Go ahead and send it.
Okay, one moment. Hi, caller. You're in the meeting. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay, my comment is about the traffic. It is about the access. They have no way of getting across to the other side of the house except for making a U-turn. Traffic in the morning is backed up for a block and a half. Now, when they come out, they'll make a right-hand turn onto Howe. The first street they come to is ours. And you can take our street and go around to Marconi. But that's going to add, 20, 30 more cars on our street. We've already had a speed bump put in here because of the traffic problem. And that's our big concern now. And then when they're trying to exit onto Marconi, the traffic can get backed up for a block and a half there with the red light. How are they going to get out under Marconi? So that's my comment. It's literally about the traffic.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other public comments, Stephanie?
No, that was the only one.
All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. I do have some follow-up questions for staff regarding the public comments received. So I'm sure, like all our other discretionary projects, this project was sent to Department of Transportation for review. Did they have any concerns about the design of the project creating additional traffic or circulation issues?
Thanks for the question, Wendy. As you mentioned, this project was routed to DOT when it was distributed, and we received a response that the trip generation did not trigger any additional traffic analysis. I did receive this same comment from the caller early on in the project's process, and I did route that to DOT just to double check that there weren't concerns with additional cut through or surrounding traffic off site. They responded, they did indicate that there was the speed table installed in 2017, and they didn't have any concerns, I guess, with the number of cars that are on that street or that are expected to be on that street with this project, but they did provide 2 additional conditions of approval, just stating that if in the future DOT deems that traffic calming measures would be necessary, that those could be installed with improvement plans or shown on improvement plans and then installed prior to certificate of occupancy. So we do have those conditions included in attachment 2 if DOT deemed that to be necessary, but at this time they did not have any concerns with the number of cars or with the cut through traffic.
Okay. And then in reviewing the plans, it appeared to me that the actual stacking length once you're onto the property slightly exceeds the county requirements. So I'm assuming because it does exceed, it just might mean that folks are kind of trapped on the site if there's not the ability for them to exit onto the public streets.
So the stacking requirement is exceeded, and there are 2 lanes.
Okay.
So both of the lanes actually exceed the 180 feet. So DOT was satisfied with that.
Okay. And so the deviation really to the drive-through is really just about the landscape separation that we usually have of 25 feet of landscaping adjacent to a drive-through down to 10 feet. And then the one drive-through window where the actual window is seems to kind of line up with the location of the street driveway. So there's really no deviations being proposed that impact circulation or stacking.
That's correct. And because they did propose the 2 drive-through lanes, it more than doubles the required stacking requirement.
All right. Thank you. So I think between the fact that the stacking requirement is exceeded and that DOT has built in some conditions to help address any additional congestion issues that may occur, I'm satisfied that the traffic and circulation concerns raised by the neighborhood are being addressed.
Wendy, I just wanted to add one more point just on this topic. The DOT also did provide us a condition that the applicant needs to provide a queue management strategy.
Okay.
So they've asked that will be describing how they plan to actively manage the queue and mitigate spillback if the storage capacity is exceeded in either of those drive-through lanes. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add
perfect.
that.
No, so that even adds to the ability to manage traffic and circulation. Okay. So I am going to request that a couple items be modified. The first, that the exhibit that indicates the art contest will occur every year, that for consistency that's struck, and it's indicated that the contest will occur approximately every 2 years. I would also like to add a condition of approval to attachment 2, indicating that the art competition and replacement of new artwork on the building facade is not subject to future design review. With those 2 modifications, I am going to recognize the exempt status of the request under Section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act. I will approve the use permit to allow a drive-through coffee kiosk in the light commercial zone district within 75 feet of a residential zone, subject to the findings, conditions, and modifications I made at this meeting. Approving the special development permit to allow deviations to landscape and drive-through entrance setback requirements, subject to the findings and conditions, and find that the project is in substantial compliance with the countywide design guidelines, subject to the findings and conditions in the staff report and as modified today. With that, there is a 10-day appeal period that anyone can appeal this decision. Moving on to the next items on the agenda. Are there any staff updates?
Hi, Wendy. This is Meredith Holsworth again, just to report that there is no staff update today.
All right, thank you very much. I also do not have any updates at this time. Are there any off-agenda public comments?
We do not have any off-agenda comments.
Right. With that, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:38. Before adjourning, I just want to make it clear that the deadline to file an appeal for a project heard today is Monday, June 28th, 2021 by 5 p.m. And the next meeting will be held on the first Wednesday of July. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.